The fabric of reality tore, not with a gentle rip, but with the shriek of dying stars and the crunch of colliding universes. Stephen Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, was no stranger to the impossible, but this was different. One moment, he was anchoring an interdimensional fissure, tendrils of cosmic horror clawing at the fragile membrane of his home reality. The next, he was caught in a vortex of raw, unbridled energy, a multidimensional maelstrom that twisted his very being, compressing time and space into a violent, blinding singularity. Pain. A searing, all-consuming pain that felt like every nerve ending in his body was being flayed by 1,000 different realities. His consciousness fractured, scattering into shards of memory, the cold precision of a surgeon's scalpel, the agony of shattered hands, the humbling awe of camartage, the countless battles waged for a dimension that now felt impossibly distant. Then, a sudden, brutal lurch and the maelstrom spat him out. He hit the ground with the force of a meteor, impacting something hard and cobbled. The air left his lungs in a ragged gasp, and for a long moment he lay prone, his senses screaming in protest. Dust, acrid and metallic, filled his nostrils. Sounds assaulted him, high-pitched screams, the guttural roar of what sounded like an enraged beast, and a barrage of sharp, crackling reports like oversized firecrackers. He pushed himself up, every muscle protesting, his head spinning. The world swam before his eyes, a blurry canvas of shifting shadows and lurid flashes of light. He blinked, trying to clear the haze, to orient himself. His sling ring, usually a comforting weight, felt cold and unresponsive on his finger. His connection to the mystic arts, usually an omnipresent hum, was faint, flickering like a dying candle. He was depowered, or at least severely hampered. Dread, cold and absolute, began to settle in his gut. "Get down, you fool!" a hoarse voice bellowed near him. He ignored it, forcing himself to focus. He was in a narrow street, cobbled and ancient, lined with what looked like crooked, half-timbered buildings. Lanterns, glowing with an internal, flickering light, hung precariously from carved posts, casting dancing shadows. But the quaint scenery was utterly overshadowed by the chaos. People, dressed in what seemed to be old-fashioned robes, ran screaming, their faces contorted in terror. Green and red light lanced through the air, accompanied by shouted words in a language Strange couldn't quite parse, yet whose intent was chillingly clear. He saw figures cloaked in black, their faces obscured by unsettling, skull-like masks, advancing relentlessly. Each black-cloaked figure held a slender stick, a wand, he realized with a jolt, from which the spells erupted. Expulso. A red beam slammed into a storefront, blowing it inward with a shower of splintered wood and glass. Stupefy. A jet of crimson light struck a fleeing man in the back, dropping him instantly motionless. This was magic, but not as he knew it. It was raw, immediate, fueled by sharp incantations and wielded through simple conduits. It felt less like tapping into universal energy and more like focused intent. Crude, yet undeniably effective. And terrifyingly destructive. Strange finally rose to his full height, swaying slightly. His hands, though still aching, responded as he tried to call upon his reserves. A faint, golden glow pulsed around his fingertips, a fraction of his usual power, but enough. He could feel the eldritch energies, albeit sluggishly, stirring within him. A woman, clutching a terrified child, stumbled directly into his path, tripped and fell. Her scream was cut short as a masked figure turned, raising his wand. Avada. Strange didn't wait for the rest of the curse. Instinct took over. With a surge of renewed focus, he thrust his hands forward. A shield, a shimmering disk of incandescent orange energy, snapped into existence between the Death Eater's wand and the fallen mother and child. The sickly green light of the curse, alien and chilling even to his seasoned eyes, struck the shield and dissipated with a furious hiss, leaving behind trails of dark smoke. The masked figure staggered back, surprised. Strange, still wobbly, pushed another surge of power into his hands. Spirals of orange light erupted, not a direct attack, but a sudden, overwhelming display of force. The sheer kinetic energy knocked the Death Eater off his feet, sending him skidding across the cobbles. The air went silent for a beat. Every eye, masked or terrified, turned to him. The remaining Death Eaters paused, their wands lowered slightly, their heads tilted in a gesture of confused menace. Strange stood, a beacon of alien power in a world of wands, his form illuminated by the strange, geometric glow of his magic. He looked disheveled, his robes torn and singed from the dimensional jump, his usually immaculate hair mussed, but the light radiating from him was unmistakable. He was bleeding from a cut above his brow, and the world still felt like it was tilting on its axis. But in that moment, as the scream slowly started up again from the now displaced Death Eaters, and the awestruck gaze of the saved woman met his, Strange knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was no longer in his dimension. And he had just irrevocably announced his presence in this one. A dark figure, partially obscured by the shadows of a nearby alley, watched him intently, a flash of something unreadable in their eyes. Strange felt a prickle of unease, not from the retreating Death Eaters, but from that lingering gaze. He tried to speak, but only a dry rasp escaped his throat. The world, already unstable, began to spin faster, the flickering connection to his magic threatening to sever completely. His knees buckled. He was falling, the cobblestones rushing up to meet him, consciousness slipping away. The world bled in muted grays when Stephen Strange next awoke. Gone were the kaleidoscopic distortions of dimensional travel, the searing eldritch flames of his last battle. Instead, a low, flickering fire cast dancing shadows across a cluttered room. He lay on a surprisingly comfortable cot, wrapped in a scratchy woolen blanket that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. His body, usually a vessel of finely tuned mystic power, throbbed with a dull ache, a residual hum of displaced energy. His hands, though whole and steady, felt strangely distant, as if the connection to his intrinsic magic was attenuated, a thick curtain drawn across a once-open vista. He sat up slowly, his gaze sweeping over the room. Dust motes danced in the sparse sunlight filtering through a grimy windowpane. A chipped teacup rested on a rickety bedside table, beside a stack of old newspapers whose headlines screamed of dread and disappearance. Ministry Falls, one bolded title proclaimed, beneath a grainy photograph of a sneering, serpentine face. Voldemort. The name echoed in his mind, a cold, alien presence. A soft click of a lock and the door opened. Professor McGonagall stepped in, her severe expression softened by a flicker of relief upon seeing him awake. Her tartan robes swished around her as she moved, a tall, imposing figure even in the domestic clutter. Behind her, a younger woman with a bushy mane of brown hair and anxious, intelligent eyes peered in. Hermione Granger. You're finally awake, McGonagall said, her voice surprisingly gentle, though edged with weariness. It seems your entrance was quite impactful. We've had you secured since we retrieved you from the skirmish in Diagon Alley. She gestured to a chair by the fire. We have much to discuss. Strange swung his legs off the cot, testing his balance. His movements were less fluid than usual, his connection to the ambient mystic energies of this dimension feeling different. Denser, perhaps. Or simply unfamiliar. He noted the subtle wards humming around the room, less intricate than some he'd encountered, but undeniably potent within their own framework. Secured, you say, Strange remarked, his voice a low rumble. A polite way of saying held captive. He walked to the fire, warming his hands, more for the sensation than any actual cold. My apologies for the disruption. My arrival was rather unplanned. And my powers are not as they should be. Under the circumstances, you were lucky we found you before the Death Eaters did, Hermione interjected, her voice earnest and quick. She clutched a thick, leather-bound book to her chest. They'd have had you interrogated and likely worse. What you did out there, that was extraordinary, wandless magic of a kind I've never read about. Strange raised an eyebrow. Wandless magic. As if a conduit is necessary for true power. His dismissal was immediate, born of centuries of his own universe's magical tradition. He found the concept almost quaint, akin to needing a manual to breathe. And what precisely is a Death Eater? McGonagall sighed, her gaze serious. They are the followers of Lord Voldemort, the man whose face you saw in the papers. A dark wizard of immense power who has seized control of our Ministry of Magic and plunged our world into war. He seeks absolute power, immortality, and the eradication of anyone he deems impure muggles, muggleborns. Hermione stepped forward, her book cracking open. And his immortality isn't merely theoretical. It's artificial, derived from a type of dark magic almost too horrific to contemplate. Horcruxes. Strange tilted his head, the word unfamiliar. Horcruxes? Is that some form of advanced necrotic channeling? A parasitic enchantment. He tried to fit it into his own vast lexicon of forbidden arts, but it wasn't clicking. Hermione began to explain, her words tumbling out in a rapid, well-rehearsed lecture, drawing on her extensive knowledge. A Horcrux is an object in which a dark wizard has hidden a fragment of his or her soul to become immortal. The wizard commits a terrible act, like murder, which is said to rend the soul, allowing a piece of it to be enchanted into an object. As long as the Horcrux remains intact, the wizard cannot truly die. Strange felt a prickle of unease. A fragmented soul? That's deeply unnatural. A profound violation of existential integrity. But simply stashing a piece of one's essence into a trinket? That sounds like a primitive form of magical warding, easily dispelled. He tapped his fingers, his mind already running through theoretical counterspells, astral projections to retrieve the fragments. It's not that simple, Dr. McGonagall said, her tone grave. The magic is incredibly dark, and the objects are often protected by powerful enchantments. And Voldemort has created not just one, but 7 of them. 7. Strange's mental calculus stumbled. 7 pieces of a soul scattered. That wasn't just desperate magic, that was a profound philosophical and metaphysical horror. His initial dismissal began to waver, replaced by a cold, analytical curiosity. He created them over many years, Hermione continued, oblivious to the shift in his internal state, her brow furrowed in concentration. Ordinary magical means can't destroy them. A Horcrux can only be destroyed if the container is damaged beyond magical repair and by something incredibly powerful like fiend fire, cursed fire, extremely dangerous, or basilisk venom. Or a legendary sword imbued with basilisk venom, which our young Mr. Potter used to destroy one, McGonagall added, a hint of pride in her voice. Strange frowned, rubbing his temples. The magic of this world was so specific. So tied to rare substances, obscure rituals, and what he perceived as clumsy, wand-waving theatrics. He reached out subtly to the ambient magic of the room, attempting to perform a simple levitation spell on the teacup. He focused his intent, pushed eldritch energy through his astral conduits. The teacup vibrated, trembled, but remained stubbornly on the table. He tried again, harder. Nothing. This dimension's mystic flow is recalcitrant, he muttered, more to himself than to them. He'd witnessed them levitating objects with a flick and a word earlier. Was his magic somehow incompatible? Or simply weakened beyond his expectation? Your magic, your wandcraft, it seems rather inefficient for such profound effects. A mere stick channeling cosmic power. Hermione looked a little hurt. McGonagall merely raised an eyebrow. Our mere sticks, Doctor, are deeply attuned to our individual magical cores, Hermione retorted, a spark of indignation in her eyes. They focus and amplify our intent, allowing for incredibly precise and powerful spellcasting. You saw what Professor McGonagall can do. Indeed, I did, Strange conceded, recalling her transfiguration and shields with a grudging respect for their effect, if not their methodology. But the idea of a conduit still rankled. His magic was the conduit. He returned his attention to the Horcruxes. So, this Serpent Lord, this Voldemort, has shattered his soul, anchoring pieces across reality to preserve his existence. A rather pathetic grasp at immortality, if you ask me. It corrodes the very essence of self. His tone was still clinical, yet a deeper understanding was beginning to form. This wasn't just a powerful wizard. This was a fundamental metaphysical anomaly. A tear in the fabric of what it meant to be. Pathetic or not, it has made him nigh invincible, McGonagall said, cutting through his musings. And until all his Horcruxes are destroyed, Voldemort cannot be truly defeated. We believe only 2 remain, but their locations are unknown to us. And with the Ministry fallen, our resources are stretched thin. We need to find them. And quickly. Strange looked from the grim-faced witch to the earnest, worried student. He felt the phantom ache of his own failing powers, the crushing weight of his original mission to return home. But the concept of a fragmented soul, a living being so utterly broken and clinging to existence through such unnatural means, that resonated with a cosmic dread he knew well. This wasn't merely local wizarding politics. This was a blight. A corruption on a universal scale, one that could perhaps even ripple back to his own fragile dimension if left unchecked. He slowly nodded, his gaze distant, seeing not just the dusty room, but the vast, interconnected tapestry of realities. Very well, he said, his voice quiet but firm. Tell me everything you know about these remaining Horcruxes. Every whisper, every legend, every possibility. Because of this, Serpent Lord has truly warped existence to this degree, then we have a far greater problem on our hands than mere wand-waving. The dismissiveness was gone, replaced by a dawning, terrible resolution. The hunt had begun. Chapter 3. The Serpent's Echo. The flickering candlelight in the safe house cast long, dancing shadows, distorting the familiar shelves of books into grotesque, hunched figures. Stephen Strange, however, saw beyond the mundane. He closed his eyes, his mind a tapestry woven with eldritch threads, probing the fabric of this reality for the anomaly they sought. You're sure it's not simply a very powerful ward, Professor? Strange's voice was a low rumble, laced with a surgeon's precision, even as his astral form shimmered faintly beside his seated body. He found projecting his consciousness a more efficient way to scan this world's arcane energies without fully engaging his physical form. Minerva McGonagall, seated opposite, adjusted her spectacles, her expression tight with grim certainty. A ward, Dr. Strange, guards a place. A Horcrux is a place, in a manner of speaking. A sanctuary for a fragment of a soul, tethered to a physical object, resisting the natural order of death itself. It radiates a particular wrongness. Hermione, perched on the edge of her armchair, a stack of ancient magical texts spilling from her lap, nodded earnestly. Professor Dumbledore described it as an unnatural concentration of dark magic, a tearing of the soul that leaves a tangible echo. It should feel corrupted. Corrupted, Strange murmured, the word tasting alien on his tongue. His own magic dealt with cosmic forces, fundamental laws of physics and existence. Soul fragmentation was a perversion of life itself, a concept he'd only encountered in the darkest tomes of Dormammu's dimension. I perceive it now. A resonance subtle but insistent, like a discordant note in the universal symphony. It's not simply powerful, it's unholy. He focused, pushing past the mundane magical static of London. His senses stretched, bypassing rudimentary notice-me-not charms and anti-muggle wards, seeing them as thin veils easily pierced. This world's magical safeguards, while intricate, often relied on intent and incantation, rather than raw dimensional manipulation. It's far from here, Strange finally declared, opening his physical eyes. Deep within the city, but shielded. I sense layers of potent, ancient magic, not all of it dark, paradoxically. Almost like protective magic, twisted to become a prison. Hermione gasped, her eyes wide. Grimmauld Place. It has to be. The Black family house. They were dark wizards, many of them, but also had powerful wards. And Regulus Black, Sirius's brother. He had dealings with Voldemort. It's empty now, but the enchantments around it are formidable. A nexus of old power, then, Strange mused. That explains the complex energy signature. Good. Simple malevolence is easier to overcome, but something rooted in history and layered magic requires more finesse. He stood, the cloak of levitation fluttering slightly as if anticipating action. We go. McGonagall, surprisingly agile for her age, rose immediately. I shall accompany you. That house holds many secrets, and the enchantments are notoriously dangerous, even for those with a wand. My methods often bypass physical barriers entirely, Strange stated, flexing his hands, sparks of orange light dancing between his fingers. However, your knowledge of its specific traps will be invaluable. Hermione, stay here. You can do more good deciphering how to destroy this thing once we retrieve it. Hermione looked disappointed but nodded. Be careful, Dr. Strange. Grimmauld Place is full of unpleasant surprises. With a nod to Hermione, Strange activated his sling ring, conjuring a sparkling portal. McGonagall stepped through without hesitation, her expression resolute. Strange followed, the portal snapping shut behind them, leaving the safe house silent once more. They emerged into a dark, narrow alleyway, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and neglect. Before them, a grimy, forgotten street, and then, as if shrugging off an invisibility cloak, a tall, imposing townhouse shimmered into view. Grimmauld Place. The Fidelius charm is weakened, but the house still resists revealing itself to outsiders, McGonagall explained softly, her wand already in hand, glowing faintly. The black family magic here is oppressive. Strange merely raised an eyebrow. Oppression I can bypass. He didn't bother with specific incantations. Instead, he channeled eldritch energy, focusing on the interwoven magical strands that formed the house's concealment. He saw them as a complex knot, but one that could be unpicked. With a subtle surge of power, he nudged the energy, forcing a gap in the protective weave. The house seemed to sigh, its wards momentarily flickering like dying embers. Remarkable, McGonagall whispered, her gaze fixed on the shimmering house. You simply nudged them aside. It's about understanding the underlying forces, not the specific incantation, Strange replied, striding forward. The front door, black and forbidding, offered no welcome. He simply conjured a sharp, orange energy blade and sliced through the ancient lock with the ease of cutting butter. Inside, the house was a mausoleum of forgotten grandeur and decaying darkness. Cobwebs hung like ghostly shrouds, and the air was thick with dust and the unmistakable tang of old magic. A shriek from a faded portrait on the wall rent the silence. Filthy intruders. Blood traitors. Walburga Black, McGonagall identified, wincing. Ignore her. She's harmless in her current state. Strange ignored the portrait, his gaze sweeping the cluttered hall, sensing the pervasive coldness of the Horcrux. It was here, deeper within. He moved with purpose, McGonagall following, her wand a beacon against the oppressive gloom. They found it in a dusty drawing room, tucked away in a display cabinet filled with ancient, tarnished silver. A heavy, golden locket, intricately embellished with the letter S, radiating a subtle, yet deeply unsettling, darkness. As Strange reached for it, a sudden explosion of purple light erupted from the corners of the room. Death Eaters! McGonagall cried, ducking behind a heavy velvet curtain as curses flew. Strange didn't duck. Instead, he snapped his hands up, conjuring a vibrant orange shield that crackled with energy, deflecting the barrage of Avada Kedavra and Crucio curses with a deafening thump. For masked figures, their wands raised, advanced from the shadows. The Sorcerer Supreme, one of them hissed, his voice distorted by his mask. Voldemort wants him alive. But the witch, dispose of her. Strange allowed himself a grim smile. Ambitious. But you overestimate your chances. He didn't wait for them to regroup. With a swift movement, he pushed his shield outward, sending a wave of concussive force that slammed two Death Eaters into the opposite wall. The other two reacted quickly, sending dark curses towards him. Strange responded by conjuring whips of pure eldritch energy, bright orange tendrils that snaked through the air, parrying curses and lashing out at his attackers. One Death Eater, quick and agile, managed to flank him, shouting Reducto. A powerful blasting curse. Strange sidestepped, the curse tearing a hole in the wall where he'd stood, and then, with a flick of his wrist, he opened a small sling ring portal directly behind the Death Eater. A quick shove, and the masked wizard tumbled backward into the void, the portal snapping shut instantly. What was that? The remaining Death Eater screamed, clearly unnerved. A shortcut, Strange replied blandly. McGonagall, emerging from behind the curtain, chose that moment to stun the remaining 2 Death Eaters with a precisely aimed stupefy. You have a flair for the dramatic, Dr. Strange, she said, her chest heaving slightly. But efficient. Strange ignored her, his eyes fixed on the locket, which still hummed with dark power. He reached for it, his fingers brushing the cold, gold surface. As he gripped it, a wave of profound despair and insidious whispers flooded his mind, a chorus of dark promises and forgotten fears. It was the Serpent Lord's echo, ancient and deeply malevolent, clinging to the fragmented soul within. This was no mere object. This was a piece of pure darkness, fighting back even from its inert state. How did one destroy something so intrinsically wrong? The air in the Ministry of Magic's deserted atrium was thick with a palpable dread. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight piercing the arched windows, illuminating the decaying grandeur of a space once bustling with life. Now it was a tomb, its magic warped, its silence broken only by the faint, distant screams from the dungeons below. Strange, cloaked in the muted crimson of his robes, materialized from a ripple in reality, his sling ring closing the portal with a whisper of crackling energy. He had tracked Voldemort here, using a blend of the ancient ward's fading echoes and his own arcane senses, following the Dark Lord's signature after the destruction of the Gaunt Ring. A rather ostentatious abode for a parasite, Strange murmured, his voice a low rumble in the vast chamber. His eyes, keen even in the gloom, swept across the fountain of magical brethren, now choked with black sludge and grotesque, skeletal figures frozen in eternal agony. The sight disgusted him. He moved with a hunter's grace, his boots making no sound on the polished floor. Death Eaters guarded the higher levels, but Strange knew they were merely puppets. He sought the source, the puppet master himself. A faint, insidious hum resonated from the chambers far beneath the atrium. Voldemort. As he descended, his magic pulsed, subtly deflecting the crude dark wards woven into the Ministry's very stones. They were potent, but predictable, lacking the intricate layered complexity of Camartage's defenses. His senses sharpened, detecting the stench of old blood, fear, and something else, something profoundly wrong with the very fabric of existence down here. Soul magic. He still struggled to fully conceptualize it, a magic so vile it defiled the natural order. He found Voldemort in a cavernous, subterranean ritual chamber, a place clearly not originally part of the Ministry's architecture, carved out and magically expanded by dark means. Voldemort stood at the center of a swirling vortex of shadow and green light, his wand extended, inscribing an arcane symbol on the stone floor with chilling precision. Around him knelt a dozen Death Eaters, their faces pale and gaunt, chanting in hushed, reverent tones. The air crackled, heavy with oppressive, suffocating power. Lord Voldemort, Strange's voice cut through the chanting like a blade of ice. Voldemort froze, his serpentine head snapping up. His red eyes, burning like malevolent embers, fixed on Strange. The Death Eaters gasped, some scrambling to their feet, wands trembling. "You," Voldemort hissed, the name dripping with venom and a flicker of unfamiliar curiosity. "The foreigner who meddles where he does not belong. I felt your presence, gnawing at my defenses like a rat." Strange stepped into the full light of the ritual, his robes catching the eerie glow. "You felt the cleansing fire of a Sorcerer Supreme, Serpent Lord. Your corruptions are an affront to the natural order, an aberration I intend to rectify." Voldemort laughed, a dry, rasping sound that sent shivers down the spines of his followers. "A Sorcerer Supreme? Such arrogance. You speak of order, yet you understand nothing of true power. I am Lord Voldemort, Master of Death, transcended beyond mortal frailties. What can you hope to achieve against me?" "I know of your Horcruxes," Strange stated, watching for a reaction. Voldemort's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, a flicker of something akin to alarm before his mask of disdain returned. "I have found and dismantled 2 of your anchors to this plane. Now I come for the source." The Death Eaters, hearing this, stirred uneasily. Voldemort's fury erupted. "Silence. He lies. My immortality is absolute." He whirled on Strange, his wand snapping up. "You dare speak of such things in my presence? You will pay dearly for your insolence." "No," Strange countered, his hands rising, eldritch energy coalescing into swirling mandalas of light. "You will pay for your sins against life itself." Voldemort shrieked an incomprehensible curse, a wave of dark magic rippling outwards. Strange met it with a golden shield, the eldritch energy absorbing the impact, sending sparks flying. The Death Eaters, emboldened by their master's fury, raised their wands. "Avada Kedavra," several cried, green light lancing towards Strange. Strange didn't flinch. With a flick of his wrists, the golden mandalas expanded, forming an impassable barrier that absorbed the killing curses harmlessly. "Amateurs," he muttered, then unleashed a sweeping wave of eldritch force. The Death Eaters screamed as they were flung backward, crashing against the stone walls like ragdolls, some unconscious, others writhing in pain. Voldemort snarled, enraged by the swift incapacitation of his followers. "Impressive parlor tricks, sorcerer. But you face one who understands the true depths of magic." He began weaving an intricate series of wand movements, chanting in Parseltongue, the ancient language hissing and spitting from his lips. The air around him shimmered, growing denser, twisting reality itself. Strange recognized the signs of truly potent, dark magic. He wouldn't hold back. He lunged, conjuring a whip of pure eldritch energy, crackling with raw power. He struck at Voldemort, aiming for his wand arm, but the Dark Lord was quick, dodging with a serpentine grace that defied his gaunt frame. "Crucio!" Voldemort shrieked, a bolt of scarlet light erupting from his wand. Strange felt a surge of agony, 1,000 needles piercing his very essence, but his disciplined mind, honed by years of astral projection and resisting cosmic horrors, fought back. He compartmentalized the pain, his shields flickering but holding. "Your curses are crude attempts at control, not true power," Strange grunted, pushing through the torment. He retaliated with a torrent of spectral knives, conjured from pure magical thought, sharp as razors, aimed at Voldemort's heart. Voldemort erected a shadowy barrier, deflecting some of the blades, but others found purchase, tearing at his robes, drawing thin lines of black ichor. "You wound me, but you cannot kill me," he snarled, a fanatical gleam in his red eyes. He unleashed a barrage of dark spells, transmogrifying the very stones of the chamber into grasping, skeletal hands, all reaching for Strange. Strange phased through the attacks, weaving through the stone onslaught, his hands constantly moving, casting, and deflecting. He saw an opening, a moment of vulnerability as Voldemort dedicated too much power to the environmental attack. This was it. He channeled all his focus, his hands forming a complex gesture. Pure, concentrated eldritch energy, infused with a localized temporal distortion, erupted from his palms. It wasn't the time stone, merely a precise manipulation of temporal fields, designed to age, disintegrate, and utterly nullify. The blast, of vibrant emerald and gold, slammed into Voldemort's chest with the force of a cosmic hammer. Voldemort cried out, a high-pitched, inhuman scream of pain and rage. His body began to buckle, to unravel. His skin withered, his bones cracked and powdered, his very essence seeming to be ripped apart at the molecular level. He sagged, the light in his eyes dimming, his form dissolving into a cloud of ash and tattered robes. The monstrous magical pressure in the chamber dissipated, leaving only the stench of dark magic and the eerie silence. Strange stood panting, his magic exhausted, but his expression grim. He had poured everything into that strike. Nothing living or undead could survive such an assault. He watched the last flecks of ash settle, a sense of weary victory washing over him. It was done. But then, a flicker. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the air where Voldemort had stood. The ashes began to swirl, to coalesce. A dark, vaporous shape formed, growing denser, gathering strength. A skeletal hand emerged from the mist, then a gaunt arm, slowly, inexorably pulling together. Strange's eyes widened in disbelief, his jaw tightening. No, it couldn't be. The vaporous form solidified, reforming into the gaunt, snake-like figure of Lord Voldemort. His robes were tattered, his skin paler than before, but his red eyes burned with a renewed, terrifying intensity. He took a gasping breath, a chillingly human sound, then let out another dry, rasping laugh, albeit weaker than before. "Foolish sorcerer," Voldemort rasped, a sickening grin stretching his thin lips. "Did you truly believe such a rudimentary attack could unmake me?" His eyes gleamed with triumphant malice. "I told you, I am beyond death. I have circumvented the grave itself. You can tear my body apart 1,000 times, and I will always return, so long as my soul endures." Strange stared, utterly stunned, a cold dread seeping into his heart. He had witnessed the resurrection of a being he had just utterly destroyed. The Horcruxes were not just anchors, they were entire spare lives, reservoirs of soul that could reconstitute the whole. His cosmic understanding of life and death, of magic and reality, had failed him. This was something truly alien, truly horrifying. Voldemort, regaining strength with every passing second, began to laugh again, a low, mocking sound that echoed in the vast chamber, promising an eternity of despair. Strange felt a profound, unsettling chill. He had just faced a foe whose power lay not in strength or spellcraft alone, but in an insidious, unnatural defiance of mortality he was wholly unprepared for. This was far more complicated, far more dangerous than he had ever anticipated. The air in the hidden attic room, now stripped of its wartime clutter, hummed with a nervous energy that echoed the triumphant but weary relief settling over the Order of the Phoenix. Strange, his last encounter with Voldemort, a sharp lesson in humility, felt the subtle thrum of lingering dark magic slowly dissipating. His mind, accustomed to navigating the abstract complexities of the multiverse, had struggled with the sheer intimacy of Voldemort's soul magic, the insidious way it intertwined with the very fabric of this reality. The diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, all gone, Hermione recited, her brow furrowed in concentration as she reviewed her notes. That leaves the diadem, Nagini, and Harry himself. She glanced at Strange, her intelligence mirroring his own analytical gaze. Strange nodded, the eye of Agamotto pulsing faintly around his neck. He'd resisted the urge to manipulate time, a tool too blunt for the delicate task of excising corrupted soul fragments. His last attempt to directly attack Voldemort's fractured essence had been met with a backlash of raw, hateful magic that had left him disoriented. He'd underestimated the sheer malice fueling the Horcruxes, the way they twisted magical laws. "We focus on the tangible," he stated, his voice calm despite the urgency. "The diadem. The serpent. Harry's fate is inextricably linked to the Dark Lords, but we cannot rush that particular resolution without full understanding of its implications." Minerva McGonagall, who had been listening intently, pushed her spectacles higher on her nose. "The diadem of Ravenclaw is hidden at Hogwarts. Voldemort believes it safe within its wards, a place of profound magical history. He wouldn't anticipate us targeting it now, not with the school under his influence. His influence is a superficial layer," Strange countered, a faint shimmer of golden energy appearing around his fingertips as he traced an invisible diagram in the air. "The ancient enchantments of Hogwarts, the ley lines that empower it, they predate his pathetic attempts at control. My awareness of dimensional structures allows me to perceive such foundational magic, to find the cracks in his veneer." Hermione's eyes lit up. "So, you can bypass his wards?" "Not directly bypass in the manner of a specific countercharm," Strange clarified, but rather perceive their underlying energetic signatures. Like understanding the difference between a house built on solid rock versus one built on shifting sand. His wards are temporary constructs clinging to ancient power. They're allowed to my senses. Their plan solidified. McGonagall would orchestrate a diversion, drawing Death Eaters and the Carrow siblings away from the precise location Strange identified within the Room of Requirement. Hermione would accompany Strange, providing invaluable knowledge of the school's layout and any specific magical vulnerabilities she could recall from her extensive research. The journey into Hogwarts was a stealth mission. Strange, cloaked in a powerful invisibility spell Hermione had taught him, moved with the silent grace of a shadow. He felt the discordant hum of Voldemort's magic, a dissonant chord against the ancient, pure melodies of the castle. His perception of the Room of Requirement was not just a door but a ripple in reality, a space that wanted to be what its seeker needed. Inside, the room was a mountainous junkyard of forgotten things, a testament to centuries of student clutter. Strange's arcane senses flared, pinpointing the Horcruxes' dark signature amidst the chaos. There he pointed, his voice a low whisper, a decaying bust atop a precarious tower of discarded arithmancy texts. The diadem is within it. As they approached, a Death Eater patrol, drawn by a distant explosion from McGonagall's diversion, rounded the corner. "Confound it," Hermione hissed, drawing her wand. Strange acted without hesitation. A swift, complex motion of his hands and shimmering eldritch whips snaked out, not to strike, but to bind the Death Eaters, encasing them in glowing golden energy. They thrashed, their shouts muffled by the magical constraints. "They're immobilized," Strange said, but not for long. "The diadem." Hermione scrambled, her nimble fingers searching the bust. "It's here." She pulled out the tarnished, blackened diadem. Its aura was cold, a deep, sickening dread emanating from its core. "Now what?" she asked, her voice strained. Strange held out his hand. "Give it to me." He felt the soul fragment within, a sliver of pure hate. He closed his eyes, focusing. The eye of Agamotto pulsed, not to rewind time, but to observe the delicate energetic structure of the Horcrux, how the soul fragment clung to the object, how it bled its dark essence into its surroundings. With a surge of focused eldritch energy, Strange channeled pure, unadulterated magical force. It wasn't the brute destruction of fiendfire, but a surgical strike. Golden tendrils of energy enveloped the diadem, not incinerating it, but meticulously dissecting the magical bond between soul and object. A high, keening wail, unheard by Hermione, but vibrating through Strange's very core, echoed from the diadem. The dark aura flickered, convulsed, and then extinguished, leaving behind merely a mundane, albeit ancient, piece of jewelry. Another one, Strange breathed, feeling the subtle shift in the magical landscape. Voldemort's power, already diminished, suffered another profound blow. Their next target was Nagini, the final Horcrux, save for Harry. This proved the most direct confrontation, as Voldemort, sensing the rapid diminishment of his anchors, had retreated into a furious, desperate rage, clinging to his last remaining vessel. Strange and Hermione, along with a determined Harry and Ron who had tracked them down, found Voldemort in the wreckage of the Great Hall, Nagini coiled protectively at his feet. The Dark Lord looked gaunt, his eyes blazing with a horrifying mix of fear and fury. His power, though still formidable, lacked the impenetrable density it had before. "You meddling fool!" Voldemort shrieked, his wand pointed at Strange. "You rip apart my immortality, but you cannot stop me." An Avada Kedavra bolt screamed toward Strange. Strange met it with a golden shield, not just deflecting, but absorbing its essence, converting it into raw arcane energy that he then unleashed as a concussive wave. Voldemort reeled, momentarily stunned. "Your immortality is a lie," Strange declared, his voice resonating with power. "A perversion of existence, built on fear and fragmented spirit. True eternity comes not from clinging to life, but from embracing the cosmic tapestry." Voldemort roared, a cacophony of ancient curses and dark spells erupting from his wand. He moved with a speed born of desperation, a blur of green and red light. But Strange was ready. He moved with a grace born of countless battles across dimensions, his hands weaving intricate patterns. Eldritch energy flared, blocking curses, binding Nagini momentarily, creating mirror dimensions that reflected Voldemort's own attacks back at him. Hermione, Harry, and Ron focused on Nagini, their wands working in concert. Harry's sword, infused with basilisk venom, flashed. With a final, desperate hiss, the great serpent was no more. The last true Horcrux was destroyed. A horrifying scream tore from Voldemort's throat, a sound of absolute agony and despair. His form flickered, became translucent for a terrifying moment, his features melting like wax. He was weaker than he had ever been, the last anchor to his cursed immortality severed. Now, the true ending, Strange murmured, stepping forward, his eyes locked on the fragmented soul of Tom Riddle. He didn't raise a wand, he didn't need one. He drew upon the very fabric of reality, not just the magical ley lines of this world, but the universal energies he commanded. He focused not on destruction, but on resolution. A brilliant, golden aura enveloped Strange, pulsating with immense power. He extended his hands, and the eldritch energy didn't just strike Voldemort, it flowed into him, a torrent of pure, uncorrupted magic that sought out the remnants of his shattered soul. It was a cleansing fire, a cosmic purification. Voldemort convulsed, screaming wordlessly as the golden light consumed him, not burning his flesh, but dissolving his very essence. His dark magic withered, unable to withstand the overwhelming, untainted power. He tried to retaliate, but his spells fizzled into weak sparks. His final, desperate gasp was swallowed by the light. When the golden energy dissipated, Lord Voldemort was gone. Not merely dead, but unmade. Only a faint, lingering echo of malevolence remained, rapidly dissipating into the ether. Silence descended upon the great hall, broken only by the gasps of the remaining Order members and the ragged breathing of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. They stared at the empty space where the Dark Lord had stood, awe and relief warring on their faces. Strange lowered his hands, a deep weariness settling upon him, but also a profound sense of closure. He had done it. He had saved this world in a way he hadn't initially intended. He looked at Hermione, her eyes wide with a mix of exhaustion and admiration. It is done. Later, in a quieter corner of the castle, the immediate threat gone, Strange prepared to attempt his return. He stood alone, facing a patch of open air, his hands already beginning the familiar, intricate movements of opening a sling ring portal. He felt the familiar tug of dimensional forces, the scent of ozone and distant cosmic winds on the edge of his awareness. But as the golden sparks began to coalesce, a jarring sensation coursed through him. The portal didn't snap open cleanly. Instead, the air shimmered erratically, the nascent gateway flickering with unstable energies. A faint, almost imperceptible crack resonated, not from the portal itself, but from the very fabric of space-time around him. It was a residual anomaly, a scar left by his violent arrival, or perhaps something even older, something tied to the unique magic of this world itself. Strange frowned, his brow furrowing in concentration. His powers were back, yes, fully restored now that the Horcruxes and Voldemort's dark magic were gone. But the path home was not as clear as he'd hoped. The dimensions here were different. Perhaps the immense magical energies unleashed in Voldemort's final destruction had done more than cleanse this reality. They had subtly altered its connection to others. He closed his eyes, extending his mystic senses, trying to pinpoint the source of the resistance. He could feel it now, a subtle, almost magnetic pull from within this dimension, hinting that his departure wouldn't be as simple as stepping through a door. It was as if this world, having accepted his aid, was not yet ready to let him go, or perhaps it merely needed more from him to fully realign before he could truly leave. The portal dissipated, leaving only shimmering air. Strange opened his eyes, a new challenge settling into his gaze. Getting home would require more than just power. It would require understanding the peculiar dimensional dynamics of a world that had, for so long, been defined by the Serpent Lord. And perhaps a deeper understanding of his own evolving role as its guardian.